So our theme for 2019 through Centers for Spiritual Living is going to be spirituality in action. So each month this year, we're going to be looking at a different process here, a different opportunity for us to learn how our spirituality can move into everyday life and affect us so that we can show up as spiritual beings having a human experience and really embrace that human experience as spiritual beings. So this month, we start the year by laying a foundation. And the foundation that we lay is the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. This is our sacred text, so to speak. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said he didn't receive any special revelation. He simply went and studied all the different world religions and then put together in this textbook the golden threads of truth. So this is not something that God downloaded this to Ernest. And so you better listen. This is Ernest saying, this is what I see when I study all the different religions of the world. And as I see this, you get to look at it as well and see what resonates within your space, within your heart and your mind. See if Spirit says this is your truth. And if it is, then embrace it. And if it doesn't work for you, then don't latch on to it. So we each get to do our own spiritual journey, our own spiritual walk here. And that's important. So that we lay that foundation. In the Bible, it begins with, in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In our textbook, chapter 1, which is called The Thing Itself, kind of an odd title. Chapter 1, Ernest starts with this creative intelligence of the universe and how it creates man and creates within each one of us the life that we have. It's really saying the same thing, that God is creating within each one of us. And we get to tap into that creation. And we get to experience God expressing through us. So the cliff note, the end of the story is, the thing itself is one of many terms that Ernest Holmes uses for God. Now, why would he say the thing itself instead of just saying God? The first chapter is God. Well, he says the thing itself because he wants to divorce us from the upbringing that many of us had as children where we had a negative view of God. The other part here is that for most of us, we were raised with an idea that God was out there in heaven somewhere, separate from us. And that in that separation, we needed to find a way to reconnect with God. That was our responsibility. Ernest Holmes has a different take on this. And in our philosophy, we don't look at God outside of us, separated. What we're looking for and looking at is God within us. God within us, because you see, we're all made from God's stuff. In the beginning, God. God created the heavens and the earth. God created man. Well, what does God create from if God is all there is? It creates from itself. So we, too, are the thing itself. We are God because we're made of God's stuff. There was nothing else. In some philosophies, they look at God and the devil. They look at good and evil. We look at there is one power, one presence. It's God and it's everywhere. We can choose to turn and look at duality. We can look at something that might look like not good or evil. But when we stop and consider everything comes from God, then everything can be good. Yes, the loss of the job, the loss of the relationship, the loss of your whatever can look bad, but when we look at that long enough, we can see there's a blessing in it. We can see that there is God in that core. And that's where we recognize that there's good in everything. And we get to continue to work with our mind to know the difference here. Some of us struggle because there are days where we just want to go back to where we were before. And I'm reminded of the wisdom of Glinda the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy wanted to go home. She wanted to go to Kansas. And Glinda said to her, "You've always had the power, my dear. You've had it all along." That power is within us. Because what we're seeking is spirit. We're on a spiritual journey. And what we're seeking all the time is to be happy. What makes us happy is to be connected with spirit. To be that love, that joy, that positive influence. And so, all we have to do is click our metaphysical ruby slippers together and know that as we go within, spirit is always there to meet us. This power goes throughout our entire life. Ernest Holmes says, "There's nothing in me that hinders the spirit from manifesting itself through me in joy, happiness, and peace." Nothing within me that's going to hinder that. That means we work with our minds so that our minds are looking for the joy, the peace, the happiness here. This is work we get to do. Ernest Holmes talks about in The Science of Mind, this is our mental work. We get to work with our minds. And I'm sure you've had this experience where you got up and you stubbed your toe and you fell into the door on the way to the bathroom and you just knew it was going to be a horrible day. And if you kept in that mindset, you had an awful day. But if you said, wait a minute, I can change this, and you stopped and you consciously started looking for something better, thank goodness the commode flushes. And all of a sudden your day turns around, right? And it's good. So we've always had that power in us, but we have to manifest it. We get to look for the positive here. He goes on and says, "It's the law of my life that wherever I go, I shall meet with joy, with love, friendship, gratitude, compensation, and with a complete opportunity for the expression of every talent and ability I possess." No matter where I go, there is good, because that's what I'm expecting. I expect to see good, and I expect to see abundance. I expect to see love. And that's exactly what I see. Ernest says, "Every door is open to me. Nothing can go from me but goodness, truth, love, kindness. Therefore, nothing less than goodness can come back to me." I've talked about that boomerang effect. The law of karma, some of you will call it. What you put out is what you're going to get back. As I look at this passage from Ernest Holmes, two things come to me. First, that it's our nature to express spirit. That God is always expressing through us, and that we're the ones that give that expression to spirit, to God. So it's fun as I move through life and I see different people. I see different expressions of God. And even if it's something that I choose not to dance with, it's like, well, there's that expression of God. And I can bless it. And I don't have to change it, because that's part of the diversity of life. The second thing I see in this passage here is that Ernest is so aligned with this power that only good can come from him, and only good can go forth, so only good can return. Are we aligned with that power of Spirit? Do we recognize that each day? And that's where we draw the source of our strength from. That's where we draw our positive attitude from. Because if we're not feeling connected to God, then it's going to be really hard to be in a positive space. We know that there's the law of attraction. And so I want each of us, my prayer for each of us, is that we will be in that space with the law of attraction, that we can have the confidence of Ernest Holmes to say, nothing goes from me but good, so nothing can return to me except good. So no matter what happens in life, we can look for the good in it. In the textbook, on page 25, Ernest is talking about how we're not robots here, but we have choice. As individuals, we each have choice. He says individuality must be spontaneous. It can never be automatic. We're not robots of God here. The seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of humans. But like the prodigal son, humans must make the great discovery for themselves. Are we making that great discovery for ourselves? Are we taking time to know ourselves and to know that we're spiritual beings? He goes on and says, we see abundance in the universe. We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. The earth contains untold riches. The very air is vibrant with power. Then he asks, why then are humans weak, poor, and afraid? You see, Ernest talked to a lot of people, and he recognized that there were a lot of people who felt weak, who felt poor, who felt afraid. Knowing who he was, he could stand in his truth and say, there is no reason for me as a spiritual being connected with God, being an expression of God, having unlimited possibilities of the universe available to me at all times. There is no reason why I should say, I am poor, I am weak, I am afraid. Because that power of God is within each one of us. And it's our choice to see that and to say that. Can you feel that energy? Can you feel that vibrant life that's available to you if you will take it, if you will latch onto it? You see, we're bound by nothing except our belief. What do you believe about yourself, about your life and your experience here in this human body? It's freedom that we have to choose our experience. We're the only ones that can limit our experience. You can't limit me, Dorothy. You might think you can. You can have your opinion. But it's up to me to know who I am and to live my truth, just like it's up to you to live your truth. And I can't tell any of you how to live your life. I can encourage you, but we each get to decide for ourselves how we're going to live. Our philosophy, the science of mind philosophy, is not about saying, this is what you do, step A, step B. You don't have to go through different rituals to be a part of this community. You get to decide what your spiritual path is going to do for you. What's right for you on your journey. The divine plan, Ernest says, is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. So do you feel free? Do you feel like God is there, just welcoming you with open arms every day as you open yourself? Open your heart and your mind to that life. It's there, it's ready for you. You get to loose the chains of binding yourself with your own thinking and open yourself to the freedom of spirit. I found this image. This is a vinyl record cover. I wish I had the vinyl record that went with it. It's Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind, How to Use the Power of Positive Thinking. So even when Ernest was starting in the 1920s, he was looking at the power of positive thinking in our lives. Because recognizing that he was one with God, that God was all good, well, of course God is going to be positive. And so that positive thinking will change our life. What you can't really see on here, and this is what really drew me, is at the bottom down here it says, the power that is within you. That was Ernest's message. The thing itself. God is within you. God is within each one of us. Do we recognize that? Are we willing to accept that and honor it? That's what's going to open the door for us to unlimited possibilities, is when we realize that God is within us, waiting, and we are the ones that give expression to it. Faith, you see, is the most important thing in life. And Ernest says, try this. Try thinking that God is all there is. See how it resonates with you. Look for good in things. Allow people to bless you and allow your life to bless others. The power is within you. Just like Glenda told Dorothy, you've had the power all the time, my dear. It's always been within you. This is a founding belief of the religious science philosophy here. That the unity of all life, all beings, animals, plants, humans, all beings are created of God, are spirit in expression. So if you have trouble with your faith, I encourage you to take Dr. Burns' workshop. Here's a commercial in the middle of the talk. Take Dr. Burns' workshop. It's next Sunday. It's from 1 to 3 at the library. Sign up at the table over here. All the money from that is going to the building fund. Thank you, Dr. Burns. He's not taking a salary for doing that. It's the generosity. It's the love. And that faith lift. See, usually we do a workshop at the beginning of the year where we set our intention for the year. We're doing something different. Dr. Burns says what everybody needs is a little more faith. And so our intention setting workshop for this year is for faith. Now you can set other intentions for the year, but by crackings, I bet you're going to come out with faith as one of the things that you're going to be working on for 2019. You see, this faith, when we set our intention, creates for us the mental law of our life. And that mental law is what will come back to us. Are we going to have faith and believe in Spirit and what Spirit is doing in our life? Or are we going to shrink from that? Are we going to look at something different? So, Spirit is love, and Spirit is law. That's the other class Dr. Burns is teaching. Although I want you to come to my class. But love and law, it's two sides of God, two sides of Spirit here. The unconditional love that Spirit has that is within each of us. We as humans are the ones that start putting conditions on it. Well, I only love you if you do what I tell you to do. I only love you if you act like I think you're supposed to. I only love you if you dress like I want you to. Well, that's baloney. God doesn't say that to us. Spirit is all about each of us being our own unique expression. And as we are our own unique expression of life, we give that beautiful tapestry to the life of Spirit working in and through us. Spirit as law doesn't play favorites. One person doesn't have more favor with Spirit than another. The law of Spirit, that law of karma, bringing back what you put out, works for everyone. If you're putting out hate, that's what you're going to get back. If you're putting out love, that's what you're going to bring back. So it's a law that works for everyone equally well, whether we are consciously using it or not. In this philosophy, we get to wake up, to be awake and aware and alert, so that we can consciously choose to have good in our life, to be good in our life, and to share good with others. That is the law of our life. I want to end here with the Bhagavad Gita. There's a quote in the Bhagavad Gita that says, "The one who is happy within, who rejoiceth within, who is illuminated within, that yogi," meaning that person, "becoming eternal, goeth to the peace of the eternal." This has identical meaning to the saying that Jesus said when he said we must be perfect even as God in us is perfect. Both of these passages call us to recognize Spirit as the indwelling presence of each of us, as well as the overshadowing power. So we see God within, and we see God all around us. The divine, I think I had this on a slide, the divine providence of good. In that, Ernest says, salvation is unnecessary, but self-discovery is essential. And this is my challenge for you this year, is to discover yourself, to spend time getting to know who you are. That means who you are on the inside. How do you resonate? What do you think? Are you looking at the glass half empty or half full? I told you that little thing before, didn't I? I found a Mother's Day card that said, "Is the glass half empty or half full?" Mom, you would always say, "Who didn't put the glass in the dishwasher?" Except my mother never had a dishwasher except us. So. But how, when we look and discover ourselves, what we will find is Spirit within us, God at the core of our being. And God at the core of our being gives us the life, the health, the joy, the peace, the love that we're looking for. And that's what we can express to the world, and that's what will come back to us. Let us pray. I know that as we pause right now and turn within, we go to that space that is Spirit expressing. That place where God doesn't judge us, but loves us unconditionally. That place where we are powerful beings within our human experience. That place where we can draw from Spirit unlimited possibilities to flow forth from our lives. And so I speak my word of blessing on each one of us, that we can discover the Spirit within each of us. That we discover that as our very nature, and we discover that as the seed of life. That seed of life that's growing and always available. And my prayer for each of us is that we're not so covered over with the human experience that we miss the divine within us. And the knowledge that we are divine beings in this human experience. And we can bring to our human expression the nature of the divine, the love, the joy, the peace, the understanding, the compassion, the beauty that is God within us. I release my word knowing that we each receive this blessing from Spirit. And together we say,